Good evening. Welcome to this monthly lecture of May 2025. Before going for the main session, I would request Professor Manav Kumar Das, the chairman of Partha DeSarkar Academy of Leadership, to give his welcome address.
Let me chant the pranam mantra first at the beginning. Oh. 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 A warm welcome from Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership. And in this today's session of monthly lecture series, May edition, we are having a wonderful speaker. And in Sanskrit, we know that Uddhavena hi siddhati karyani na monorathai na hi shuktasya sinhasya pravishanti mukhe mrigaha. By continuous startup and hard work, one can achieve the goal, not by simple desire. A deer will never enter into the mouth of a lion, sleeping lion. Here we have a speaker for last 40 years, striving hard and share his experiences with us. But before that, let me introduce Dr. Partha Ghosh, the founder of this Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership, a wonderful person, a philosopher, a philanthropist, visionary, and a person who is trying to fuse a fusion process of the Indian, rather Eastern and Western culture. He has delivered many lectures with his different models of leadership across the country. And with these things, last week only, we have conducted a leadership program in Kolkata, Newtown, IIT Research Park, where we are mixed with a varied kind of people all over the country. They really have enjoyed and they are so curious about PGL. What is this PGL? They did not know about these things, and they're trying to making a bond between, and from I we go to we actually. So, and within the campus, some people have already contacted PGAL. And as you enter PGAL, there's a picture of Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra with his bow kind of, and asking Bhagavan Sri Krishna about the leadership kind of thing, about the battlefield. So, without much ado, let me request Dr. Partha Ghosh to speak about the leadership, his dream about this Academy of Leadership and what it can do, or kind of a metamorphosis of this country in a local scale and the world in a global scale. May I request Dr. Partha Ghosh to speak a few words about this academy?
Thank you, Professor Das. And firstly, also let me take this opportunity to welcome our main speaker, Partha DeSarkar. It's good that we share the same name. So obviously looking forward to some brilliant thoughts. I just want to share a few thoughts about the academy, which we are trying to build for the last 5 years. I want to give a little bit of background, why we are working on it and what is the fundamental inspiration behind. Now, me having had the opportunity to serve and work with leaders, corporates and governments across close to 30 plus nations, I really believe from the bottom of the heart, as I see the world, we are at crossroads. The world, the civilization, our country, in a profound state of flux, driven by multiple tensions, geopolitical, economic, climate instability, human migration. And the worst of all is the widening wealth gap that we see across the world, in the United States, in India, in various parts of the world, and between nations. So obviously, it's very clear that if we follow the path that we have followed over the last 300, 400 years, into the future, the world would continue to be in a state of I would say, misery and a state of confusion. Now, why so? And that's what we are. The Academy of Leadership is special. As you know, the fundamental equations that have shaped our past is Adam Smith's power of self-interest and Herbert Spencer's survival of the fittest, which was inspired by the Darwinian thinking, and have drawn the world into literally a zero-sum mindset. For one to win, another person must lose. As a result, societies have grown increasingly self-centered, communities are fragmenting, moral compass has faltered, and ethical standards are being eroded. Nations are turning inward, as you know what's happening with the tariffs, as you know what's happening with the Russia-Ukraine war, what's happening in Gaza, what's happening between India and Pakistan, and across the world there's so many tensions. So collaboration is diminishing, conflicts are escalating, or while the balances of the three E's, the economy, ecology, equity, becomes deeply alarming. So we do urgently need to switch what we call from zero-sum to plus-sum game, one that promotes the concept of one humanity, embrace both top-down and bottom-up, and in the process, it is our view, the whole of Vedic philosophy. So I'm very glad that Professor Das started the meeting with some Vedic mantras. Is very important, where we bring the concept of one humanity into play in building the future leaders. And when we talk about future leaders, not only we are talking about our students, we are talking about corporate leaders, we are talking about government leaders. So indeed, as Professor Das talked about, we organized a very special program only about 2 weeks ago, which was quite successful. And we have done several of them before previous years, and we must build on it. So we are trying to touch current leaders, build the future leaders, and our mantra is very simple, that we will bring the best of Western thinking and integrate with the best of Eastern thinking with Vedic philosophy right at the core. And it is our hope in the process we will give birth to a leadership model which the world would look up to, our nation would be proud of, and in the process, India, in the process, IIT Kharagpur, the PGAL would be able to play a central role in shaping the leaders of the world in the future. So this event that we are organizing today is very important, and Partha, will be introduced by Professor Nandi, but I'm really looking forward to building on all the previous lectures that we have had, and together we will create a fabric which hopefully would inspire the thousands and millions of leaders around the world. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. To Professor Nandi.
Thank you, Partha. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Partha DeSarkar. He is the Group CEO of Hinduja Global Solutions and Executive Director of AGS Board. He has more than 25 years of experience in customer service and operations across industries like banking, financial services, and health insurance. Prior to joining AGS, Partha has worked with Deloitte Consulting, GE Capital, International Services, and Bank of America. He holds a postgraduate degree in management from IIM Bangalore, a master's degree in technology from IIT Chennai. He also has done his PhD in strategic management in IIT Delhi. So we all look forward to Dr. DeSarkar's talk today, and we will have an interactive session as well following his talk. So let's get started. Over to you, Dr. DeSarkar.
Thank you very much. Just checking, is my audio clear?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Professor Das, Professor Nandi, and Mr. Partha Ghosh. Very, very inspiring introductions. I hope I can live up to the expectations that you've set off of this particular session. Just a quick intro to myself, which is not what was discussed, is that my dad is from IIT Kharagpur. was from IIT Kharagpur, second batch, 1956. And my association with IIT Kharagpur goes back a long time. As a kid, would visit the campus very much because my dad was very attached to IIT Kharagpur. And as you know, the earlier batches of IIT Kharagpur were very thick. Every Sunday, they would meet in Baliganj Phadi in Kolkata for an adda session for just having a coffee and some biscuits. And my dad was a regular participant in that till his last years. So he just passed away in 2021, and very, very fond memories of IIT Kharagpur, and always take active interest in whenever I get an opportunity to speak to the alumni. So very honored today to be able to have this opportunity to speak to all of you, and very inspired by the vision that I'm hearing of the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership. I just hope I can live up to the expectations of what you have said. We have just sent out a poll. I wanted to get a sense of understanding of what people are looking for in the session. So there is a poll out there. I wanted to have a look at, what people are talking about in terms of the careers that the attendees in this call are looking for. So if all of you can look at the chat window and respond to a poll that has been put out there.
No.
So basically, the question that we have in front of you is that, for many of you who are graduating from IIT Kharagpur or wherever you're from, what would you like to be? Would you like to be, or are you already in a role of an entrepreneur? Are you a business executive in the corporate sector? Are you a technical specialist, an independent or with an organization, or any other role? I wanted to get a sense of what the attendees are so that I can curate my discussion based on the kind of responses that I get to that. So we'll take a few moments for the votes to come in. It will give me a sense of what the general interest of the audience is, and then I'll be able to curate this session in that direction. That's fantastic, Mr. Ghosh. Shape the future of the world and make PGL the driver. Wonderful.
That's the vision.
Yeah, don't type in the chat box. Just respond to the poll. That will help us count the poll. Okay, I think you've got enough responses. So quite a few looks like they want to be entrepreneurs, and we have got quite a few tech specialists, independent or with an organization. There are too many people who are excited by the prospect of being a business executive in the corporate sector, based on the poll results that I'm seeing, and there are some people who are in other roles. So if that is the general bent of the audience, then we'll try and see how the presentation today addresses what entrepreneurship is all about, and my journey particularly in building up HGS from its start to where it is today. So that's what I'm going to share then. So with that, can I ask whoever is running the presentation to put the presentation up?
It is up.
Yep, wonderful. Thank you. So just for the sake of my clarity, who's running the presentation?
Tanuja Partho.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tanuja. So yeah, I wanted to just clarify, we talk about unicorn. When I started, there was nothing called a unicorn. I never even heard the term, but now it's a hot topic. What is a unicorn? Which is a startup which has scaled very quickly to $1 billion in valuation, right? And so when I talk about a unicorn, people can relate to it. And since there are so many people who are aspiring entrepreneurs, many of them would probably be interested in the story. What does it take to scale a startup to be a unicorn? So that's what the story is going to be all about. And hopefully it'll be an interest to all of you, and we'll keep it interactive. I will also have questions at the end of the session. So let's move to the next slide. I want to start where so when I came into AGS, it was in 2003, and I had earlier worked in. I first started off in Hinduja Aeronautic Limited, which was a public sector, and it was a fairly very interesting work because I was interested in aeronautics, and we were building planes for use of the Indian Air Force and also some civilian planes. So after HL, I did an MBA in IIM Bangalore, PGDM in IIM Bangalore, and then moved into banking with GE and Deloitte. So it was a fairly significant shift for me. Okay, essentially managing a blue collar workforce to something which is white collar completely, and selling and servicing as a part of Bank of America, high net worth individuals. And it was something that I found very difficult to relate to because I come from a middle class family, and I don't think I enjoyed my stint of trying to service H&I because high net worth individuals, because it's very difficult to relate to them. So I was like a square peg in a round hole. And while I was still struggling through trying to figure out what my identity is in the new setup, one escape path that I found was I got into IT. So I moved away from servicing and trying to see how we can bring in IT into banking. So that was how I got into the industry that I'm in today, which is into international offshoring and outsourcing, with stints in Deloitte and G Capital, where I started my career in international outsourcing and offshoring. So having spent almost 12 years in American multinationals, I then moved to this company called HTMT, which was a startup, a very small startup based out of Bangalore and run by an Indian family business, owned majority, or it's publicly listed, but it was majority owned by Indian entrepreneurs. So I would call myself a professional because that's the training I received in Bank of America, GE and Deloitte Consulting. But for me, this journey, when I started with AGS, was a very interesting journey because Indian entrepreneurs have a very different mindset. And when you're working with multinationals, especially as an executive, you have a different mindset. So for me, the journey was to adapt. First was to adapt. So entrepreneurs are somebody whose ideas are often very large and often larger than his or her resources. That is my interpretation of how I classify an entrepreneur. Now, we can debate it towards the end, but they think very big. And they don't really get bogged down whether they have resources or lack of it. That's how you get startups, run by entrepreneurs who have great ideas, don't necessarily have the capital, but they start up with their ideas and they try to grow it big and often come and ask for funding and other help. So they don't have the research, but they didn't stop them from starting something new. So that's what they bring, ideas, free flowing, and they're very possessive about their own ideas. And they have this ability to dream very, very big. However, when it comes to risk, the popular perception is they have a huge risk appetite. My interaction with this entrepreneurs have been they actually do not understand risk at all. They are not risk averse at all. They don't understand risk. So it's almost like Rishabh Pant, he bats without understanding that there is something called risk, right? So that's the attitude that I've found in entrepreneurs. A big change from my days of being a professional, from my MBA days, who worked in Bank of America and Deloitte and AGS and G Capital. Let's move to the next slide. So when I started working for entrepreneurs and when I brought in my professional outlook, here is what I believe we are strong in as a professional. Our education system drills process, discipline, and systems and shapes the way we think. That helps us with ideas that bring in scalability, reliability, and predictability. We are very well trained how to manage risk and mitigate risks. And therefore, the ideal combination is, in my mind and in my opinion, are entrepreneurs who have ideas and professionals who come to bring their execution skills together, which is where I started to enjoy my journey at AGS. We'll move to the next slide. So when you're starting with people who have got such different point of views, so you have an entrepreneur who's got great ideas, but not necessarily in a systematic fashion, and you've got an executive who's coming from companies like Bank of America, GE, and all of that, who are big time into Six Sigma. How do you get alignment? And the alignment is understanding what is the idea, seek clarification, what is the entrepreneur trying to do, and in what are the boundaries in which we are willing to, the entrepreneur is willing to allow the professional to operate. And having worked in multinationals and then India-owned entrepreneurial setups, I will say one thing, that typically in multinationals, you will find that you are essentially doing what somebody else is asking you to do, which is somebody from San Francisco, somebody from New York, somebody from Singapore, somebody from Hong Kong is setting up guidelines within which you are expected to operate. Whereas an Indian entrepreneur is giving you, my experience has been a lot more adventurous, and they give you the kind of empowerment that you almost have a blank whiteboard on which you can draw his dreams and figure out how to make his dreams come true. The governance mechanism is generally around a huge amount of empowerment. And it's an empowerment that I did not find in any of the American multinationals that I've worked. They will give you a business, you'll have to give them a business plan. They'll give you how much capital that they want to be invested, and they will tell you how much of returns they're expecting from the capital that they are giving you. And they will govern you with the boards, and the board comes and generally gets involved in quarterly board meetings. They will evaluate performance. Are you generating the returns that you're looking for? What are the problems? How can they help remove the problems from you? And how can you generate the returns that they are looking for? So converting an entrepreneur's vision to an execution roadmap is the role that I got when I started off with AGS. And this was very different from my earlier experiences with the multinationals that I'd worked for. So in a way, I found it very, very empowering when I came to work for the Indian business house. Let's move to the next slide. So this company started off in 2000. It was called HTMT, and it had about $5 million in revenue. About 200 people were working. It had one client, an American insurer, which is in the health insurance space, and it had one center, a 4-floor building in Bangalore. That's where it started off. I joined this in 2003. Can you move the slide? I joined them in 2003, and that's when its revenues were about 23 million. It had about 1,400 people, 15 clients, and 2 centers. Right when I joined, I joined as the chief operating officer, and we acquired a setup in Philippines. This was an entrepreneurial setup who had set up one of the first business process outsourcing units in Philippines, and we acquired his business. We created a joint venture, and we expanded our footprint to Philippines. At that point of time, India and Philippines were the top 2 outsourcing offshoring destination, and they continue to be very, very popular outsourcing and outsourcing destinations worldwide. From different parts of the world, businesses get serviced by India and Philippines. We'll move to the next slide, which talks about, I joined as a chief operating officer. I was made the CEO in 2006. And that's when one of the first things that I was asked to do, I was handed over a check of $20 million and said that go and build a big company. And that is the first time that I've seen so much cash. $20 million is a lot of money. And I've never had any experience of having so much capital at my disposal. So with the board and the promoter, we decided to buy a company which was in Peoria in Illinois. And that took us to US. And once that got integrated, the revenues of the company grew to about 97 million. We had about 9,500 people, 70 clients, and we had 20 centers across India, Philippines, and USA. So you can see that the entrepreneur's dream was to be global. He started up by being a single center in Bangalore, which is where I came in. But right at the point of hiring me, he said that, listen, the reason we are hiring you is because you bring all this experience from GE and Deloitte of doing international outsourcing and offshoring. We don't have that skill set. That's why we are bringing you. Your job would be to build a global business for us. That was the mandate that was given to me. And this mandate was actually drawn out to me in an airport waiting room on a piece of napkin. There was a tissue paper lying out there. So my boss, who was the chairman of the company at the point of time, we had time to kill. The flight was delayed or something. He came and said that this is what I want. This is the amount of capital I can get you. This is how big I want this operation to be. This is the kind of value that I need to be created. So this was very interesting to me because I had never before got this kind of empowerment to do something, build something ground up. And they have always supported me throughout, always supported me. And thankfully, I've also been able to deliver to build an international operation starting from Bangalore. So today, if you look at it, in 2007, when we actually demerged the company. It had other businesses. Those businesses were demerged into a different setup. And this company listed on its own in BSE and NSE in 2007. And this was our operation in 2007. So in 2008, as you know, the subprime crisis hit global economy, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and it made me focus on building the infrastructure of the company to scale up, to make it a global operation, because there was so much uncertainty with the international clients that we had at that point of time that nobody was willing to spend money in expanding the operation. So we were kind of at a stalemate saying that what do we do now? It helped me to clean up the house a little bit. So let's go to the next slide. One of the things that I found, and having come from these multinationals, and that's why I keep talking about that, is that the cultures were very different. The culture that I inherited was very traditional. It had its downsides, therefore. A lot of premium was given to loyalty. A lot of premium was given to obedience over performance. In a sense that I found a fair amount of servility in the group, always looking up, always saying yes. Whereas in American multinationals, you will work, everything is open. It's a very transparent culture. People are called by their first names. You are encouraged to speak your mind. You're encouraged to debate. You're encouraged to argue. Whereas in an Indian setup, if you go, you will find the culture is, if you're senior, you're right. You will be called sir, so and so. There will be deference in everything that you say. People will hardly challenge you. Even if you are saying something wrong, people will end up saying yes to you. Okay, and therefore you don't really get value out of the team because they're too busy to please you. So that was the first thing that I had to change when I came in, because I needed people who were professional, who were willing to challenge me, people who bought in diversity of thought. So it was very clear that I had to change the culture of the company to be able to make it more performance driven. And here I want to make also a difference between loyalty versus performance. They don't always go hand in hand. There are some cultures which the traditional culture gives a lot of emphasis on loyalty. If you're loyal, you will last a long time. Your career can be for life. Whereas nobody's going to ask you whether you're performing in the job. Whereas in a performance-driven culture, your tenure is driven by how well you're performing and the tenure of your performance that drives your tenure and your growth in the organization. I felt that we needed a good mix of both. It's not that the traditional culture was bad. It's just that if you don't have the right mix of people, you won't be able to get the best minds to work for you. So I've always believed in that, hiring absolutely the best people. And I always go to the extent of saying that you have to hire people who are better than you. You are just an orchestra conductor because you've hired smart people, and that way it takes a lot of work away from you, in a sense that you're not loaded to take all the difficult decisions. You're not the person that's doing everything. Everybody else is taking orders from you. You're not that at all, because you've hired smart people, you've empowered them, you've delegated work to them. They deliver because they get incentivized, and they're capable people who can take the difficult decisions for you. And that's where I find balancing vision and execution also becomes very easy, because now the job of execution is spread out across a team that you've hired and you're able to delegate. The other culture that you had to build was around operations excellence and customer centricity. We were a small brand, and at that point of time, we had a lot of international players that would come in. You had Infosys, you had HCL, you had Wipro. They were big at that point of time. How as a small company do you compete with them? I found that customer centricity, putting the customer first, responsive, willingness to walk the extra mile beyond the contractual SLAs was always something that our customers enjoyed, because we would go to the extra mile to please them. We will never throw the contract at them, and that endured us to them and often helped us win more business, even when you're competing against the big American brands, the big international brands, or even the big India houses. Dealing with underperformance has also been an issue that I've learned. Typically, what we found is when you manage a team, you spend a lot of time trying to bring up people who are actually underperforming. We try to coach them, cajole them, tell them, this is what you need to do differently. A lot of time goes in bringing up people who are actually not able to perform. And sometimes it ends up at you're sacrificing the time that you should be spending with your high performers, because they are self-motivated. They don't really need too much of recognition or strokes. They are able to do work on their own. And that ends up almost like you take them for granted. And while they're doing their own stuff and you're spending the time with the crybabies, the people who are good are actually the people who are saying that, okay, it looks like this organization takes us for granted, and therefore they move on because they find jobs in other places very, very quickly. And if you can't hold on to them, you're doomed, because they are the people who are actually producing the results. The other thing that I found is that sales is, frankly, and this is probably everybody understands this, but I've always believed that selling, you're actually, I try to find solution to customers' problems. I don't use the word sales in that particular way or selling in that particular way. I've always found this works very well. It kind of rings a chord with our clients. I'm here to not sell to you. I'm here to figure out how can I solve your business problem. If I use that line, I've found that works very, very well. Client advocacy, great account management, mining into accounts who've been with us for a long time. It's much easier to sell into clients who are satisfied with you and have been with you, as opposed to finding new clients. That's always a much tougher job. So you have to do both. It's not that you always can focus on mining. You have to do both. But typically growth comes if you're able to satisfy your client and mine existing relationship, because selling into an existing customer is much, much easier. So building this culture is what I spend time on, while the business kind of stagnated in this 2008 subprime crisis time. We'll move to the next slide. So this was the first decade of the company. we were operating in India, Philippines, and the US. Our revenues about $175 million. We had about 14,000 people, 80 clients, 24 centers worldwide, and we had about 3 acquisitions behind us. Our geographical expansion in the Philippines and US were all driven by acquisitions that we did of companies who are already operating in that space. We'll move to the next year. I'm going to talk about how we scaled up once the subprime crisis kind of was behind us. We again got back into a geographical expansion mode. We diversified our client market and entered into UK and Europe. In FY11 and FY12, we went into UK, Europe, acquired companies which were operating in that space. We had presence in London. We had presence in a couple of other cities in UK. We had presence in Paris. We had presence in Hamburg. Smaller European presences. Our revenues at that point grew to about $240 million, 19,000 people, 105 clients, and we had 30 centers across the countries that we were operating in, 5 countries. We'll move on to the next slide. In 2012, we entered Canada, and we also then set up a greenfield project in Jamaica. And the reason we went to Jamaica is because we found that lots of people actually preferred the fact that Jamaica was near shore. It had the same time zone, culturally very aligned to the US because of close cultural affinity. And some of the work that was going to India and Philippines, we found that there is also demand for having something closer home, which is not a 24-hour flight, which is in the same time zone, culturally aligned people, same accents. That's where we set up Jamaica, but this was not an acquisition. This was an organic startup, a greenfield startup that we did in Kingston in Jamaica. So at this point of time, our revenues are about $320 million. We had 24,000 people, 480 clients, and 50 centers worldwide. We'll move to the next slide. So we did smaller acquisitions in 2013, mostly around the healthcare. Healthcare was one of our largest verticals, and it was the prime mover of the organization. We did very well in healthcare. That was where I came from. Okay, I came from healthcare, and I understood that vertical very well. It's about a $13 trillion spend in US. It's one of the largest spends in the US economy. And we understood that really well, and we verticalized the organization to be able to service that market. We'll move to the next slide. Continued on acquiring new capabilities in healthcare. By 2015, our revenues were $460 million. We had about 28,000 people, 690 clients, and 60 centers. One thing that I missed in 2008, when the subprime crisis happened, we also tried to see whether the India market made any sense to grow into. So we grew our presence in India as well. We never were operating in India earlier. India was never a market for us. We were always exporting our services to the Western countries. But after the subprime crisis happened, when growth slowed down, then we started exploring India to see how does the India market look like. As all of you know, the India market is an extremely cost-sensitive market. It's a tough market to make money in. But because our growth had slowed down on the Western market, we had started looking to our Indian clients as well. So when you look at the client list and you look at 680 clients, many of them were Indian clients at that point of time. We'll move to the next slide. In 2016 was a landmark for us. We hit about $500 million of revenue. Our geographical presence remained more or less the same, operating out of India, Philippines, UK, Europe, Canada, US, and Jamaica. We did more acquisitions, and at that point of time, I probably made one of the largest mistakes, one of the biggest mistakes that I've done. in my career of 22 years. And, in hindsight, it was something that I'm not proud of. But I still want to share that experience. And the reason we went down that path, because I think it's important for people to understand. I talked about our foray into India domestic in 2008 when the subprime crisis happened. And I talked about the fact that India is a very difficult market to operate in because it's a very cost sensitive market. For some reason, we believed that if you have scale in India, and because it's such a linguistically diverse country, if you have a big presence in India, you will win supplier power and you will be able to command a better price in India. So there was another company who was divesting their India domestic business. We bought that India domestic business. That gave us footprint all across India. We were predominantly South India when we set up our India domestic business, but when we acquired this unit, it gave us presence in North, East, West, South, everywhere. And that's where the reason for that, as I said, was the strategy that we thought would be that we would be able to exercise supplier power, and that will give us pricing power because nobody else would be able to match our network of centers all over the country with geographical diversity and language diversity. But it's a decision that I regretted later, and I'm going to share that with you. Next slide. In 2018, while we were doing all this work, we were predominantly a services business, which is into business process outsourcing and business process management. We were not doing too much work in IT. 2018 is when we first moved into acquiring a small business out of Boston, an entrepreneur who sold our business to us, and that was into traditional application development and maintenance. It was into cloud, it was into Oracle DX and all of that. That was our first foray into getting into pure IT services space. So we did that acquisition, which again, I will tell you, has been one of the best things that I've done. So in contrast, while I just talked to you about one of the biggest failures that I've had when I had acquired the India domestic business, the small company that we acquired in Austin today is almost like, it's like a tail wagging the dog, because that practice has actually scaled significantly. And today, one of my successors who came, the entrepreneur who came, actually came with us in that acquisition. So in 2019, we were $690 million, 42,000 people worldwide, 890 clients, 70 centers, and we had done about 8 acquisitions. Next slide, please. So you would see that, a large part of our growth has been through acquisitions. And what does it take to make acquisitions work? I think the important part is that you have to be very careful that the buyer and the seller in your deal structure is aligned as to what you're trying to achieve, because it's very difficult to get that. The buyer will want the highest price. The buyer will want the lowest price, the seller will want the highest price. So how do you get an alignment in that kind of a setup where the person will sell only if you pay him big dollars and the person will only try to buy it if there is value in buying it? So how do you get alignment? So one of the structures that we have found very useful is what we call the earnout structure. We agree on a price, which is the prices of today, and we say that we'll pay you in the future based on how the business performs after we acquired it. And if you meet certain performance goals, then you get the value that you're asking for. And because we are seeing the results coming in, I don't mind paying you that premium through the earnout structure, as opposed to paying you upfront a huge amount of cash that you're expecting today. I can't pay you that, I can't match your expectation, but you stay with me, grow the business, show me that it actually works, and then I don't mind paying you the premium. So earnouts has been a structure that we have used, especially for entrepreneurial setups. Entrepreneurs actually struggle to work in a corporate environment like us. They have so much they were used to so much of independence that it is not easy for them to take orders from a corporate who's coming and telling that Big Daddy is here, we've written you a big check, we expect you to do X, Y, and Z. It's not easy. Okay. When you have an earnout structure, at least the incentives are aligned. The other thing that are important is strategic assumptions. Those have to be validated very clearly. The biggest mistakes that I have made, of the 14 acquisitions I've done, I would say that 3 of them have gone wrong. 11 of them I've done right. And when I look back at what are those things that I did wrong on those 3, you will find that those are listed out there. The strategic assumption was wrong. We acquired a healthcare company which was into Obamacare in the last few years of Mr. Obama's presidency. And once Mr. Obama went away, Obamacare kind of went into a limbo and that business tanked, right? The strategic assumption was wrong. We thought that Obamacare is going to be there for good. Typically, you will find that most of the businesses will come and say that, okay, our future is like this, our present is like this, but our future is like this. So it's like a hockey stick projection that people talk about. We say that, okay, if that's what your future looks like, why is your present not there? And that's where earnout structures actually help. If you were to agree to a deal which has a hockey stick projection, then we will say, okay, we will agree to a base price, which is based on your current performance. If you actually deliver the hockey stick performance that you're saying is going to happen, then you take the earnout. So that's when we pay the premium. Spending time on due diligence. In our second acquisition, our due diligence went wrong. And we made certain assumptions of the business model, which turned out to be horribly wrong. And we were not able to scale that business. We ended up paying a lot of money, but were not able to. Finally, we had to shut down that business. And also, when the deal team is working and you're trying to agree on a valuation, what happens is if you can't make the ROI work, typically a lot of value is put into what is known as terminal value and synergy values. And that's how the math is made to work. But you have to be very, very skeptical about synergy values. Synergy values are often very amorphous, and you have to tie that synergy value down to actual synergy achievement. Otherwise, you're paying value for something that is not there in your hand today, something that is promised for the future. So that's one of the few of the tricks that I've learned in some of the mistakes that I've made to make acquisitions successful. How are we doing on time, Tanuja? I think we're okay, right?
Yeah, we got 11 more slides, Partha. So yeah, we're good.
Okay, all right. So let's move to the next slide then. So now comes the third decade, which is COVID, post-COVID, world after COVID. 2020, COVID, March, COVID struck, businesses shut down, offices shut down. We had to send 48,000 people home to work. So we operated from home. And as you know, in most Western geographies, while people have homes which have office spaces, in Eastern geographies like India and Philippines, most of our houses are very small. So how do you get people to work from a laptop out there when they're surrounded by crying children, noise of cooking, this, that, and all? But there was no choice. 48,000 people over a period of 2 months who were working in offices went home to work and produce output. And we didn't lose a heartbeat there. We actually were able to transform that work from brick and mortar environment to work from home. It was like magic. That was also the time that we divested the India domestic business, because we realized, just imagine at that point of time, India domestic business was about 18,000 people. It was a very, very people intensive business. Just before COVID, January 2020, we decided to divest the business. And all the strategic assumptions that I made, that it will give me pricing power because I have, I have the geographical reach, I have language diversity. It did not give me the pricing power. Customers insisted on paying absolutely the cheapest price, and it was very hard to make money in that business. So we divested that India domestic business with a very heavy heart. All my assumptions of why I went into the business. I went into the business because of subprime crisis, and I was not getting business, export business. It was kind of an alternate revenue stream that I was chasing, but all those assumptions went wrong, and I finally had to sell that because while we did not lose money, we were not really getting the return of capital, nor were we getting the return on time that we were spending on trying to make that business work. So we divested the business. That was the first divestment that I did across the 14 other acquisitions that we did. So right now, in 2020, we were operating 6 geos, revenues of about $735 million, 37,000 people, and 900 clients with 60 centers worldwide. So this, if you recall, when we started off, we were just one center in Bangalore with about 1,400 people and one client. And in 2 decades, we were able to grow this business and grow this business to this scale despite COVID. 2021, that was the highest revenue year, $750 million, 40,000 people operating from more or less the same countries, the 6 geographies where we were there. That's when the board decided to take a call that we were not getting the kind of valuation that the board was expected of the business. We were listed in India. The board said, okay, let's see if we can get in private equity into our business. What does it do to unlock value? So we started by saying that, okay, we look for a minority interest in our business, our healthcare business, which was doing very well. It was really the jewel in the crown. We started by exploring minority interest, but then when the bids started coming in, the bids were eye-popping. Our total market capitalization was at that point of time about $300 million it was below the revenue, about below half the revenue, but that one business itself, $400 million, was actually valued by the ultimate buyer at $1.2 billion, 3 times revenues. So clearly massive value unlocking happened. I'm very happy that we were able to unlock so much value for the shareholders. And a $400 million book of business that we have built organically was sold for $1.2 billion. So in 2022, we were almost half the size, $440 million, 21,000 people, 35 centers. We entered Australia in 2022 by doing an acquisition in February of 2022. So that was a new sourcing geography that we started off. Move to the next slide. I want to talk about divestment and the pains of divestment. You know, divestment is very hard. There's no other way to put it. There are 2 situations that we typically end up when you're divesting a business. One, you're not doing well. Okay, and it's not worth the return on capital. It's not worth your time. It's losing money for you. You divest. Or you're not getting a value for the business that you are running today. So the business may be running very, very well, but the market doesn't understand what you do and it's not getting valued appropriately, which is the second situation that I talked about, where we sold a $400 million book of business to $1.2 billion. So the value unlocking was massive. The shareholders was happy. I was happy because it felt like, you know, we've achieved something. There's a market validation of the value of the business that we built. On one side, I was acknowledging my failures of having to shut down and sell a business, which I thought would do well, which didn't do well. On the other side, a business which I personally grown since I came in healthcare in 2003 to the $400 million that we sold out. It felt like that I was giving my baby away. And, you know, it is bittersweet because on one side, you're happy. It's unlocked a lot of value. You feel a sense of pride. Okay, we've achieved something. On the other side, you lose relationships, you use friends, you use peers, you use clients. So for me, in balance, I feel good for the shareholders. And I know that it has been a spectacular success for me in my professional career. And I managed to keep all the relationships. They are still my friends. My clients are still my friends. Those clients are still my friends. So that's how I've salvaged what I thought was a very, very deeply sad moment for me. I can't explain this beyond that. So those are the pain of the day. It's always tough. I've done 3 divestment. It's always been tough. It's not easy. And one needs to have the appetite to be able to pull that off. Let's move to the next slide. So what was left of the business was another $400 million, and we had to scale that business up. I decided to go more digital. You remember in 2018, we acquired a small startup in Austin. We acquired another, it was not a startup, it was again a small entrepreneur doing business out of Chicago, Naperville area. We acquired his business. So now we had a business which was about $100 million, which was pure digital and IT. Okay, we operated now with Australia in the network. We operated in 7 geos, 21,000 people. My job given to by the board was to scale the business back to what it was. And that's what I ended up doing. We then set up a business in Barranquilla, Colombia. Again, the rationale for doing that was the same. It's right next to Jamaica, same time zone, short flight from Miami. These destinations were coming up as alternates to India and Philippines because they were at a different time zone, long distance to travel. Clients were looking for something that is near shore. Post-COVID, there was this thing, don't want to travel so far, too much risk in operating in remote geographies. Can we do it outsourcing closer to home? So we looked at the Caribbeans, and that's when Colombia came in. Next slide, please. So that makes us current 2025. We just opened up another center in South Africa, Cape Town. Today we are about $585 million in revenue with 18,000 people. And we operate in 9 countries. South Africa is catching up to India and Philippines. It's got great talent base. And we believe that the future of South Africa is also very, very good. So we are also trying to transform the business. I will be failing in showing this to you, as we had a tech services business which was into Oracle, cloud, application development, maintenance, and all of that. And then we had a process management business, right, which was into backroom, front office, back office, all of that. We've tried to bring this thing together using AI, which is transforming business processes through AI. So many of you use chatbots, many of you use conversational AI as well. That's the future of where customer journeys are going. Right now, people who live in Americas will be used to seeing that if you try to reach out to people in a helpline, it's very easy to put into a hold where they will tell you repeatedly that your call is important, but they will not pick up your call. It's just that they don't want to pay for the people that are required to pick up the call to handle your query. So if you don't want to pay for people, then you have to pay for technology. And the technology has gone to a point where you won't be able to distinguish whether you're a person speaking to you or it's a bot speaking to you, whether you're typing or whether you're speaking. Technology has reached that place. Now, technology is ahead of its adoption curve. So all this technology is really, really cool. Do people trust the technology? I will say that people haven't yet started trusting it. There are organizations that have gone whole hog. So many of you may have read about this company called Klarna, who in 2022 fired 700 people and went all AI. Just 2 weeks back, the CEO with his in his commentary said that, listen, we made a mistake. AI was not able to handle the quality that our customers were desiring. We are hiring people back, right? So technology, AI technology is new. It is extremely exciting. It has a bright future ahead of it. But if people believe that it can replace people, that is not going to happen in the way people are thinking. There are lots of people who believe that, yes, a lot of jobs will be displaced. Some will be, and I don't want to really beat about the bush. But newer jobs will be created. It's like, I'll give you an example. When I worked at Bank of America, when computerization happened in banks, it was severely opposed by unions, particularly in West Bengal, because it's a very unionized state. They would not allow computerization to happen in banks. However, computerization has happened in banks. Banking industries has mushroomed. Look at the number of banks today, the branches today. Computers has not taken away jobs. It just created more jobs in the bank. So there is this question about what AI can do. Is all good or is all bad? For me, as an optimist, I can say that If you talk about medical research, if you talk about customer journeys, I believe AI can do a lot of good, but yes, it requires obviously governance. It has capabilities. In the hands of a bad actor, it can really, really do harm. So that is the point where we are today. AI is going to be a significant transformer to our industry and to the world economy. It's almost, I would say, another industrial revolution coming way, which is driven by AI. Next slide, please. So that's where we are. That's the end of my story. I traced my story from where I started off with one client and one building in Bangalore to where we are today, operating out of 9 countries, introducing AI in whatever we do. And as I said, the idea was given to me in a napkin, saying that this is what we want to do. And thankfully, through God's grace and Mr. Ganesha's blessings, it has been a journey with more ups than downs. I've had my downs, but there has been more ups and downs, thankfully. And the credit goes to the team. I think I've got a really smart team, been able to hire very smart people who helped me deliver the results. It has been a journey that I am happy with. The good thing is that the small entrepreneur, the small company that we bought in 2018, the entrepreneur who started off that is going to take over from me in my role. So just imagine what an entrepreneur's journey is from something that he sold to me in 2018, a small company of $10 million based out of Austin. He takes over from me a global operation with 9 countries and close to $500 million in operations. So that's really my journey. And that's what I meant by saying that this is what it took me to scale what was essentially a startup to a unicorn. And I use the word unicorn purposefully because, the $1 billion valuation that we got for something that had just one client when I started off in 2000, it had 23 associates and 1 client for a healthcare insurance play. It was a startup. It had almost no other client, nothing else, to something that grew to $400 million and got valued at $1.2 billion. So the market, I have to say this, that shareholders' expectations are never ending. It's never enough. If you've done a great job last year, what about this quarter? And the bar continues to get set high, and you have to continue to meet higher and higher levels of shareholders' expectations. So having been a CEO now for how many years have been? I started off in 2006. So it's been about 19 years, 76 quarters, quarter on quarter of mostly growth and good profitability. But I'm happy that I've worked on a succession plan, and a successor who joined me in 2018 with his small company that is sold to me is going to take over from me. So that's really my story of my journey with HGS, and happy to take questions if people have.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. DeSarkar. So very exciting story indeed, and I mean,
thank you.
So much to learn. So much to learn. Maybe I'll ask Partha, Dr. Ghosh to kind of set the ball rolling. I'll ask few questions, and we'll have questions from the audience too. But Partha, you want to get going first?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Partha, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation and the journey that you have led. Let me begin with a difficult question. You started by saying the freedom that you enjoyed from your shareholder as you joined the company from multinationals. And then you also talked about the difficulties that you had in developing the Indian market. So there are two sides I felt. On one side, or maybe it's the same reflection, that in India, people are very, very conscious about the immediate value
Correct.
and cost conscious. But in multinationals, you enjoyed a certain kind of discipline, a certain kind of understanding that people have to be valued in a proper fashion. How did you reconcile the two
Well,
aspects?
the driver is actually the exchange rate. So that's what gives you so the same work when you earn in dollars today will give you 80 rupees, right? At that point of time, it would give you about 45 rupees. So that's what the edge. If you find Indian IT services and all the growth of Indian IT services from the Y2K year to what it is today, they have been hugely successful and they have focused on overseas markets. Their presence in India is small compared to their overseas presence. So it was the same strategy that I talked about. I found the India market to be quite challenging, extremely cost conscious, extremely value conscious, which means they will want the best thing at the cheapest price. And it's tough to make money, and that's why we had to exit that business. We've stayed away from the business now since its divestiture in 2020. The exchange rate actually makes a lot of difference. It helps you earn a better rate of return for the same efforts that you put in.
Okay, that makes sense. So in other words, what I often found, which is true, because I also ran my consulting profession across the world. And I did notice that a tip in India, people's ability to value, and with value comes a certain price. So you want value, but you do not want to offer the price, is perhaps going to be one of the leadership challenges of the country. But if we want to build brand, we want to ensure that in India we succeed, as we have seen in Japan, in Korea, in the United States, in Germany, and then you go global. In case of, Narayan Murthy was telling me the same thing when I met him recently in Bangalore, that it was so hard to do business in India. That's why we went global, and 99% of the revenues were global. So which also says that in India, we need a little bit of a leadership education, that you cannot be so cost conscious that you do not allow the supplier to enjoy serving your own customers in the country.
Look, there are a lot of very successful India brands. I don't want to take away the success and what goes into make a very successful India brand. Hats off to them. They really do a good job. You also have to understand that international operations comes with its inherent risk, which is geopolitical risk. If you're in India, you know what the risk is in India, you know the market risk in India, you balance that risk out because it's right in your control. When you operate cross-border, the geopolitical risk that comes with it is outside your control. So you need to have the risk appetite to live through that geopolitical risk. Right now, what is happening with tariffs and all of that, right? You have to have the guts to live through that geopolitical risk because that's not in your control. You can't even see it coming very often, right?
Absolutely.
So what is the impact of Brexit? The impact of Brexit, what happened when yen suddenly appreciated in value? What's happening today in the global economy with trade wars looming? These are risks that come with that territory if you choose to operate in international waters. You choose to operate in India, it's a tough market, but it's a market you're familiar, you live there, and therefore you can manage the risks better. So there are balancing factors, sir. I do not want to ever make the point saying that, okay, the India market is back. If you look at the economy, this economy is driven by consumption economy. It's not driven, unlike China, which is driven by exports, the Indian economy is driven by consumption economy, which means Indian consumers drive the economy, right?
Okay. Pradeep, back to you, Rajit. I'm sure there are many others who have questions.
Yeah, sorry, I was speaking on mute. One question from my side, Dr. DeSarkar. So you said in your talk that there were 3 acquisitions which you kind of consider not to be very successful, right?
Yep.
Now, Like what I have seen in my past experience, right? There are various aspects to the quote unquote successful acquisition. So one portion is the technology that you are trying to assimilate into your company, and the other portion is the culture of the organization that you are trying to assimilate. There may be a few others, but in my experience, I've seen either these are one of the two. I mean, these are the two main vectors which kind of eventually decide the fate of the acquisition. So in this case, if you would like to throw some light.
Absolutely, 100% true. But Tanuja, can you bring that slide? I forgot to mention this. Can you bring that slide back? Because I mentioned that in that. I didn't mention it, but culture is an extremely important part of making an acquisition successful. If you end up with entrepreneurs or sellers who have a completely different mindset, it's very difficult to make that thing work. So, that was one of my learnings. So of the three that failed, we clearly had a cultural misalignment in making it work. So if you look at it, the point out there, the second point on the right-hand side, cultural match, exactly the point that you're saying, Professor.
Okay.
And see, also understand, entrepreneurs come with a mindset, right? They are used to their independence. They build the business based on, they have taken the shots, right? They have taken the call, they've taken the shots. All of a sudden, for you to go and impose yourself as a boss, saying that, listen, I know it better than you. If you try that approach, it will probably not work. So, the other lucky thing has been that, because we've not taken that approach, the entrepreneurs who've sold the businesses to us have actually stayed with us. I talked about the story of the entrepreneur who's taking over from me. I have been lucky. In most of the acquisitions, the entrepreneurs have actually stayed beyond their earn-out period to build their futures with us.
Yeah, sounds great. And interestingly, I mean, AGS has been all over the globe, right? I mean, so for an organization like AGS, which did so many successful acquisitions all over the globe, and yet had its share of failures. Interesting. So we'll take questions from the audience now. I see Mr. Tarun. You want to go ahead?
Yes, please. So am I audible clear enough?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. First of all, thank you so much, Dr. DeSarkar. It's grateful for your incredibly valuable insights. So it's been an honor. By the way, quick introduction. Yes, quick introduction. My name is Tarun, a recent graduate from IIT Kharagpur with a bachelor's and master's degree. Currently working as an incubation manager in one of the incubators of IIT Kharagpur, supporting the startups out there. So even we are also in that journey of incubating them, supporting these young founders. We are like finding ways we can better prepare them to lead through this uncertainties that they face through and scale responsibly. So, in fact, it would be an honor to have your guidance as a mentor to help these young founders navigate their scale-up journeys. Like maybe if there's a visibility and valuing your time, we would love to explore the possibility of onboarding you as a mentor under our incubation program. If that's something that maybe we can take post this call as well with the help of Professor Manav Lasser.
More than welcome. More than welcome. See, for me, it's an honor. As I said, my dad graduated from that university, IIT Kharagpur in 1956. I have had very close ties with IIT Kharagpur. In fact, this is my second session with IIT Kharagpur. I addressed the VG Som school 2-3 years back. I enjoy my interactions at IIT Kharagpur. And all of you do some great work. I was in fact speaking to, I met Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala in New York 2-3 weeks. He's such an icon. He's such an icon in incubating technology startup ideas from IIT Madras. If you look at what he did with wireless and local loop, WLL, if you look at what he has done with Unifor, all of them were incubated in IIT Madras campus. So it's very inspiring.
Yes, it's completely agree. No second thought. He has been an inspiration as well. We listen to his talks, which are out there on YouTube, and get inspired from time to time.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you so much.
I'm happy to be associated if you really want me to. So yeah, that's a sidebar conversation that I can have with IIT Kharagpur. No problem.
Just an initiative. Thank you so much, Mantaji, for your time here. Always grateful.
Okay, so I see Nirikshit raising his hand. If you can go ahead, please.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you
Yes.
are.
Sir, so first of all, I would like to introduce myself. So I am Nirik. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am a final year engineering student from Department of Mechanical from NIT Calicut. So what is my question is that would you think that in future acquisition would help you generate more revenue to your Hinduja global solutions in future? Maybe 10 years down the line, would you think that acquiring more and more companies would help you generate more revenue?
Yeah, our approach with acquisition has been very, very boutique. I call it the string of pearls approach. We've never done one big acquisition. We've never bought public companies. We've sought out entrepreneurs who've got good idea, good product, good service, and we made them a part of our journey. Okay. So has it given us a big revenue uplift? None of them have given a big revenue uplift. These have mostly been $50 million, sub $50 million. Many of them have been startups. And some of them, as I said, my track record has been I've done 14, out of which 11 have worked. And the 3 that have not worked, again, they were startups only. But yeah, I've never really gone with acquisition to be a way to grow revenues. That's a very expensive way to grow revenues. So I think that that addresses your question on the chat, but why not organic growth option opted? We've grown all our businesses organically as well. None of the acquisitions that we did were big acquisitions. They are mostly done to enter new markets because it's very tough to enter a new market when you are not known in that market. But we've not done any acquisitions. Only one acquisition that I remember, which had revenues of more than $50 million. After we have acquired, we've grown them organically. Growing through acquisitions, through revenues is a very expensive way. You'd rather do it for geographical diversity, or you would do it for new capabilities that you do not have, and you have to address the speed to market.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Neeraj this side. So, thanks for this great presentation, sir. I just wanted to highlight this, like you mentioned the acquisition you did for IT in the West, like in the international part. You found that very promising, and like that gave you an edge in the business. And the journey you took in India, like you acquired an Indian domestic, you faced challenges. So, what do you think? Like, what is the main difference between the results obtained in the from the international entrepreneurs and the journey with the Indian ones, or are you looking for the same kind of skill set in the Indian entrepreneurs if you are able to find that same results? Like, if will you be willing to choose Indian entrepreneurs for the same skill set the other people bring?
Very
Of
good
course.
question.
Of course. Of course. So just by the way of clarification, some of the entrepreneurs that we acquired business for are people from Indian origin. So even though they have based and built businesses in the US, but they are people from Indian origin. So there is no bias about buying from Indians. All I said was if you have a great startup idea in India, obviously it'll be something that we'll be very, very keen to look at.
Hello,
And sir, can you like list some like challenges you faced with the Indian ones and the international one, like in the efficiency or the government expect? Like, was there any difference you observed during your work with them?
No, there was no difference. As I was trying to explain, the India market is very cost conscious and very value conscious, right?
Okay.
So that's why the margins on operating in India are lower. And because of the exchange rate difference, for the same effort, you earn a lot of more margin if you were to do an export business. And that's why we've chosen to be there. Lots of companies doing so well in India because they choose to do the business in India. So that's been that's been the direction that was given to me by the board, and I've just executed to what their margin expectation and the return expectations were. For me, it's the marginal cost of my time and my leadership's time, right? If there is limited time and attention that is available, what is the business that will give you the maximum return for your time and your team's time?
So it was a strategic decision.
Yes.
Thank you.
Partha, could I raise a question to you?
Sure, sir.
When you analyze your leadership quality, obviously you've done very well. But if you were to, since we are talking in the Academy of Leadership, let me shift the discussion to your leadership style. What do you think are the attributes in your personality that helped you to work with your shareholders, to build the team, to internationalize the operation? Obviously, there are certain things about you which made the difference. And what are the things about you, if you were to do it again, you would like to do differently in terms of, again, in terms of your leadership qualities?
That's a really tough question. You want me to beat my own drum, so
Please, but as long as it is useful for us. Obviously, there's a lot we can learn. What worked for you, and also you can share what you hoped could have worked better if you had certain other qualities.
I've always been lucky to be able to attract smart people. Okay, so people who have worked with me in previous organizations have followed me into HGS. Okay, people who worked with me in Bank of America, in GE, in Deloitte, many of them came and worked with me when I moved shop. So I was lucky to that extent. I knew people whom I've hired, I had their track record, and I had the ability to get them to stay with me for a very long time. So that helped. So I don't know what is it about, whether these are personal qualities, but I believe there are certain things that I do. I like to hire smart people and empower them and allow them to take their decisions and back them when they make the mistake. That is an important. So for example, we opened a business in Dubai. It didn't do well. Okay, we shut it down. Okay, the entire team that worked on that project would have thought that they would have got fired. I took that team out and put them in a different business. So people know that there is no harm in failing if you're trying something new. We will back you, right? And that encourages experimentation, that encourages innovation, all of that. Nobody's behind your back saying that, okay, you failed, so you have to pay the price of a failure. You have to give people that assurance that it is a safe space for you to encourage innovation. If you don't give them that, then why would people take risks, right? You will have very safe people playing safe bets, and when you have safe bets, you only have safe results. You don't have extraordinary results.
Absolutely. Very well said.
So again, we Nirikshit this side. So my last question is that, so for the next upcoming 1 or 2 decades, so what's your, as a CEO of Hinduja Global Solutions, so what is your vision to make it more sustainable, profitable business for the next 1 or 2 decades, for next upcoming 1 or 2 decades?
I just relinquished the CEO role, as I mentioned. We've gone through a succession planning process, so I've handed over the roles, but I think AI is going to be a big part of our journey going forward.
So you would like to conclude that the artificial intelligence would be helping you to build a sustainable, profitable business in the next upcoming 1 or 2 decades?
Yeah, because it's a completely new technology. See, one of the reasons why I'm so excited by this is because it's such a new technology. Nobody can say that we've got decades of experience with this. It's almost like a level playing field for small companies like us and big companies who've been around for decades, right? It creates a level playing field because the technology is so new. It's easier to compete when the playing field is level.
Right.
Right now, the firms that are big are having challenges because they don't know what to do with their size. The bigger firms are slower because of their size. You will find, if you've read The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, the seed of future failures lie in your current success. Because you're so invested in your current success, so much of capital has gone into creating the infrastructure that gives you a success today, that when technology changes and brings in disruption, or you yourself are not incented to, because there is so much of sunk cost, you yourself don't drive innovation. So I believe it's a unique opportunity for smaller players like HGS to actually capture the AI wave and leapfrog, because it's such a level playing field with this new technology.
So do you have plans of getting into other industries other than telecom, banking, and public sectors? Like, as of 6 CEOs, do you have other plans of entering into other sectors as well in future?
Yes. So we were looking at what I call high tech. So it could be in any field. It's across. It could be fintech. It could be edutech. It could be insurtech.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are in good time. I guess a couple of minutes left. One more question from anyone? Okay, Ujjwal, go ahead.
Sorry, I was saying that thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. It was both inspiring as well as a reality check for what might come in the future as we embark on an entrepreneurial journey. So I'm an IIT KGP student. I work in the UK as a kind of a freelancer consultant, but I have entrepreneurial interest and I'm working towards entering Indian market in the healthcare industry. And based on what you said, I was just wondering, is it going to be a difficult journey? Because there must be some kind of bureaucracy in the healthcare industry, and I don't know what kind of products you are selling in India. So if you could give some kind of idea of what kind of challenges I might be facing there. I want to start a home care, elderly home care platform for India. That's my idea. Because I find it quite challenging for people like me who are not able to look after the parents who are based in India getting old, and personally it has been very troubling for me. So that's one question. And the other point I found interesting when you said somebody handed you over $20 million of check when you were at the airport on based on discussions on a piece of napkin. So I just wanted to learn a bit more about that, if that's okay. What made that happen? What did they see in you, and what were you at that point in time? Thank you.
I think we've run out of time for that's a longer discussion, but I can tell you about healthcare. Healthcare, the price elasticity in healthcare is less. So because it is such an essential service, it is, I think healthcare is a safe space. You will find people may be willing to pay you the price that you're looking for when it comes to healthcare. And if you're looking for elder care, there are lots of people looking for that service. We don't have that reliable service. That's a good place to be in, is my personal opinion. Okay. It's an unorganized sector still. It is very, very organized in the West. So that's an opportunity for new entrepreneurs to come and have a look at in this market. Elder care homes, senior care residential communities, these are very common in the West. You don't find reliable suppliers for that out here. So you may still have a big demand and a low supply situation, which will give you an edge that could probably be useful. So that answer I can give you. The other question as to why the strategy was drawn up on a napkin given in an airport and why I was given $20 million, that's a longer conversation. Time is up. So if you want to chat with me offline, we can do that.
Sure, I'll connect you on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so Partha, Dr. Ghosh, you want to make one last comment?
Yeah, I would like to just quickly summarize, perhaps, Professor Nandi. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me call you now, Partha DeSarkar, Mr. DeSarkar. Dr. DeSarkar. It was a wonderful presentation. I think, as you could sense from all the comments and the questions raised, that you have inspired many. That was one of the purpose.
Thank you.
Number two, I think you should definitely link with Academy of Leadership as a regular basis, because as you could see, India is looking for great leaders. The world is looking for great leaders, and you have lived through it, and your life could be an inspiration for many, many people to come. So my closing comment would be that you are very much in tune with what we want to achieve through the Academy of Leadership. And it is our hope with Professor Nandi and Professor Das and many others who are involved with the Academy of Leadership, you will continue to help drive the movement. This is a movement that we have launched, and we have to have many such discussions to bring many thoughts together.
I'm happy as I move into the second phase of my career, because as I said, I'm too young to hang up my boots. So, I have 76 quarters behind me. It has left its scars. It has left its good feelings, a combination of all of that. But
Absolutely.
it's also a work-life balance issue for me.
Absolutely.
So I am now more than willing to look at new things. Academia collaboration has been something that's very, very close to my heart. If you've seen, I've been a person who's also been into constant academic learning. So I'm probably one of the few people who've got four degrees under my belt. I don't talk about it, but 2 master's degrees and then 1 PhD. Not too many people will say that, and all of them. So the MTech from IIT Madras was done part-time while working. The PhD from IIT Delhi was done part-time while working. So I enjoy academics. I enjoy learning new things, and I'll be more than happy to be associated. And IIT Kharagpur is such a aspirational brand. Oh my God. It's not just my dad's association with an institute. All these IITs are incredible made in India brands.
Absolutely. And let me tell you one thing, the best way to stay young is to keep working. I'm perhaps several years older than you. I work 24 hours a day, and that's the best way to stay young.
Yeah. So I'm not hanging up my boots. It's just that I want to do something
don't hang
different.
it up.
That's all.
Keep using it. Let me pass it back to Professor Nandi. Thank you very much for giving the opportunity. And thank you, Dr. DeSarkar.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been an honor to speak to IIT Kharagpur.
Yeah, it has been a fantastic talk, Dr. DeSarkar, and rest assured that, we will remain in touch with you, and we look forward to many more interactions online and also offline. So at the Academy, we are planning to have regular programs now that we have started, so the research park based out of Kolkata, that happens to be a very good location for people like you, in terms of accessibility. So we will have programs most likely during the Durga Puja time as well as in the winter, the 2 times when, a lot of Bengalis, they come back home. So we plan to leverage that. So we'll remain in touch and look forward to meeting you in person. Professor Das, you want to make a comment, sir?
Yeah. In fact, today morning, I was talking to Partha, and I just offered him that maybe when the students come back to the campus, sometime in July or August, let us invite Partha for a one-day session, whole one-day session, and interact with the students, because I have talked to many students who want to be entrepreneur, but probably do not know the pathways kind of thing. So Partha can give us a kind of one-to-one kind of offline, of course, directions, interact and encourage with his vast experience over past nearly about 30 years of time. Of course, he's a very busy person, and finding time out of this very busy schedule is a difficult task. But given my relationship with Partha, I think I can manage. Is it not?
Yeah, you have not let people know that you are my batchmate from Jadavpur University.
Yeah, I
People don't know that.
Partha and I spent 4 years and we did BTech project together also. That's a wonderful.
It'll be my honor. Let me just make it unequivocally clear. It'll be my honor to be associated with such an iconic brand. IIT Kharagpur is the first IIT in India. It'll be an absolute honor to be associated in any way. Please let me know. We'll figure out something.
Very good.
Thank you.
And maybe Manav, you could start your entrepreneurial journey now.
Yes, so Partha, with you as a beacon light, I always talk to Prajit, and we might have some differences with you with the WhatsApp talk to over hours and hours. But that has given me and Prajit too to take a risk as far as Partha, my friend Partha has mentioned. No, high returns come with high risk. He plays safe, and the safe returns kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So I do believe that way. What my Partha has mentioned in replying to one of the questions also, and that is the path we are trudging. And along with Partha, you are like guiding us all together, and we are like sometimes not listening to you. Let me be very frank and candid. Okay, both Prajit, and that's why what Partha said is that he wants to be surrounded by people smarter than him. Is that what you said, Partha?
Yeah, that is absolutely the secret to success.
Yes. So Prajit is very young. Prajit is very young, and I had an introduction of 15 minutes time with Prajit. And then next what I did is I called Prajit that I want him to be vice chairperson of Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership. Then my director called me and said that Prajit is so young, you think he'll be able to deliver? I said yes, with an emphatic yes.
Absolutely.
Partha, yes.
I fully agree.
I remember the day. Partha, we had a breakfast on 13th of December, and you were leaving to Kolkata on that same.
I remember.
Yeah, after you left on the car, the driver said, I called Prajit saying that I want you to be the vice chairperson of PGL. And next hour, I wrote a letter to the director to me. And so I am maybe I am following the path what Partha has already gone. And as Partha you are saying, want to be entrepreneur, absolutely true. I mean, we need, this is the call of the hour probably. And as Partha said, AI. In fact, today Partha has also told about Middle East becoming the hub, AI hub, how they have invested so much like this thing, and he has lots of experiences of those things. Maybe sometime when Partha comes physically to our campus, he can talk to a big audience and what next should be done. Well, I've talked too much, Prajit. That's my
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. It was a very nice talk. We have enjoyed thoroughly each moment of it. We look forward again to Dr. DeSarkar visiting IIT Kharagpur and meeting us in person. And also we look forward as a team for the next talk by our distinguished guest. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Namaskar.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.